Jace here with Jim. We got a new podcast for you guys this evening. Uh, the last one was about Trump and the election and all that stuff, and we thought maybe we'd take a little bit lighter, lighter view, lighter topics today. At the end of the last podcast, we kind of got into aliens and whether we thought they were real, stuff like that, and it made me think, what might be a fun episode is to talk about aliens and Bigfoot. Um, Jim brought up the idea of just doing like myths versus facts, and more just kind of a general conversation about what are our thoughts on that, because I think it's fun. Um, that's all I got. I'm glad you guys are watching. Please feel free to jump in the chat. If you have any questions, you have any comments, whatever, throw it in there. I'll be monitoring it so we can address it. And say, hey, Jim.
How's it going, everyone? I thought it was we talked after last show about, uh, I think one thing we mentioned was propulsion systems and, observing things in the sky. And I didn't know if our conversation was actually going to be talking about like actual aliens and the abductions and, how deep or which direction it could go. But I think just thinking like maybe it would be easy to start with something like just saying, is it what type of aliens? Is it actual beings flying around? And I think that, maybe that's kind of where we should start it is like, is there some actual foreign being from another universe or such actually coming here or not? What do you think? Do you think
Yeah.
it's interstellar travel
You
or
mean
it's,
intelligence? We're talking.
yeah,
Is it
some type of,
intelligence?
intelligence that we are aware or unaware of that exists somewhere else that's coming here to, all the things they do.
Right. I do not. Um, I'm a pretty firm believer that aliens are not among us. Now I will say we talked about some of the footage. See some of the Air Force footage, things like that, with these with the video of these ships that are doing things that aren't physically possible. Like it's not even like hey, they're going Mach 9 and all of our vessels will go Mach 7. It's not. It's like they're defying the laws of physics, and that is about the only thing that gives me any pause on it. Is what are these things? Because they're not. It's not like the quacks that are sitting on their back porch with a 12 pack and just taking some grainy photo on their phone or something, or video on their phone. I mean, these are respectable, reputable, members of the community, members of the military that have no reason to lie. Like they've got no skin in the game. That I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's got to be some kind of technology or something like that we just don't know anything about yet. Or that we do and we don't want to admit that we know about yet. That is where I'm leaning. That's where logic takes me, because I can't believe it's aliens. I just can't. What do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't say I believe that it would be like actual aliens doing it. We have maybe it's a form of drone technology that is I think that might be it. But like you said, defying the laws of physics. Movements, the erratic movements that they've seen in some of these things, I think that's where we could say, hey, that's we don't understand how it does that. We don't understand the physics behind it. One thing else I'd like to bring up is air resistance. Air resistance is, something moves at a certain speed. The materials that are being struck by this air can destroy it. And even the SR-71 Blackbird traveled so fast, still, I believe, the most fastest produced aircraft ever made. It traveled so fast it had to have titanium was the skin of it, because just striking the air at that speed caused it to be extremely hot and would to the point to where most metals just rip apart or not really plausible to be good for flight. So it's really weird to think of it when you think of things like that that can move that fast that these pilots are witnessing. and they're seeing them moving at these speeds. There's a lot that's just not really that we don't understand about that. And somebody riding inside that, I think, if there was someone actually inside of it, we don't understand the physics, how something could survive those G's, that sudden stopping, that inertia that you would have, and then to erratically move in a different direction, it would damage your body. It'd be pretty bad. So I just don't see how those things would actually an organism driving or flying those things. I think they might be more of a drone.
So you're saying like even if it was alien, you just don't think that alien physiology would be able to withstand it, or you just think that you're just ruling out the alien aspect of it completely.
I think maybe. No, I wouldn't say that. I think I'm more or less along the lines that I don't think they're piloted by anyone, at least that we could understand, because there are certain laws of physics that maybe in a machine can do that we can't do. And I think that that's kind of where I believe those things are more of those type of. But if it's truly alien and we don't understand the technology, we're totally ignorant to actually comment on how they're able to do that anyway. But of course, that's extremely advanced technology. There are movies out there that people could be put inside, submerged in water or things like that to do interstellar travel in movies. I think like Event Horizon. There's a few other movies that have that where they put them in water because that's a way of like shielding your body from that inertia, slow you down because you're in a thick medium. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't believe they're piloted, but they could be controlled by something, but I don't know why.
And I think that's the thing that gets me also. In addition to just the fact that I believe it. At the end of the day, I believe we are special. I believe Earth is special. I believe that it was placed here by God. We were placed on it by God, and with the intention of being special. So I don't think there is any kind of life anywhere else. And I haven't seen any evidence that shows that you'll see they'll talk about there was once water on Mars or whatever, and then they extrapolate that, well, if there was water, then there was bacteria, and if there was bacteria, there could have been plants, and if there could have been plants, who knows, or whatever. Um, all as far as I can tell, based on the fact that they believe that there was once water. To me, that is not sound enough evidence to say, yes, there has been any form of life outside of Earth. I just don't believe it. And then I get to, well, let's just play with it and let's decide, okay, fine. There are aliens. They are flying around. What for? Like I think, if they were that intelligent and they were traveling here, it'd be for a reason. And the reason would have to be, I would assume, which of course I'm basing it on human nature, which is flawed logic in and of itself, but either to invade or to build a dialogue with. I don't know why else. I guess just maybe to inspect or test or whatever. But why haven't they presented themselves? Why are these random less than detailed images all we've ever gotten? Because if it was us, the first thing we would do is probably land and try to make contact. So why don't they? I don't. I got so many issues with it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I I think that was my question too. It's the why, and people have said they've been abducted by aliens, and all I have to say about that is that whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I will say this: if it is, and there's traveling from some place far away to come here to probe us, and you think they'd have us figured out by now? They could travel that far across space. I'm pretty
Or
sure they don't have to pick somebody up to
or
figure it
why
out.
wouldn't they take a leader, like a leader or a very successful a high status person, or why wouldn't they choose to abduct or to monitor the best of us instead of this random person in a field in Kansas. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty weird because I mean, and also it's kind of like whenever there's a fire, they go get the or anything bad happens. Camera crews seem to find the most you know doesn't sound very well on TV, and they become a meme. You know what I mean? We've heard a lot of them. And
Have you noticed how that's like died down?
a little
When
bit.
we were kids, they were all over the place, and now it's died way down. I wonder why that is.
Well, another weird thing I was talking to somebody about the other day was remember that dancing baby thing that was on the internet years and years ago?
Dancing?
It
I
had
don't
like
think
that
so.
dancing baby, and I think it was singing something, but it was went around for a long time. It was like one of the first like goofy, quirky things that was shared on the internet. And that dancing baby thing just came to mind because I just didn't understand why everybody thought it was so funny or so quirky. It was just
If
really weird.
anybody in the chat, you guys watching, if you know what he's talking about, let me know. I'm not. If you remember the name of it, I don't remember that one. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, just to get back to the abductions and getting back to I think the aliens would have figured us out by now. And, I don't know, maybe we're their playground and they're just messing with us to see what we do because, they probably, if they've been watching us for a while, they know that, we end up killing each other and then we don't kill each other. And, so I mean, they've observed us long enough to know they might just be throwing a wrench out there to see what happens.
Yeah, what what did what did any of that have to do with the dancing baby? I didn't get the segue.
No, I just come back to the It's Baby beat. That was just a quirky thing that was tagging on to your idea about the let's say I lost train of thought. Let's see.
Okay. And, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, I don't think they would really need to abduct us. If they had that kind of technology where they had interstellar travel, they were able to travel these great distances at you know um, logistical speeds that they could actually do the sort of thing. They wouldn't need to abduct us. I mean, they would be able to find out all the information about us that they needed to find out through papers, through the internet, through whatever. They would need to abduct us. They don't need to abduct a human being to learn our physiology. You can pick up any biology book and learn that. I mean, So I always thought all those guys. I never had any faith in those, especially because of who generally wound up being abducted. It was always a certain type of person. People from that probably lived near us, um, that couldn't really articulate very well, and you would wonder why on earth they would want to abduct them. I guess let's zoom back a little bit on it because I think we're both kind of on the same page as far as the video footage and everything. Which, like I said, it is compelling. Some of those videos are compelling. Wondering what those things are because it's something. It's definitely something. There's no denying that now. When we were kids, it was always really grainy, crappy video footage from somebody's camcorder. For those of you watching, probably way younger than us, like the Back to the Future camcorder, if that helps. That movie reference might be
The
too
old
old for
JVC.
you. Anyway, it was always crappy footage, and you're like, okay, whatever, that's nothing. Now it's something, but it's probably something terrestrial that some nation doesn't want to let us know about. So let's zoom back a little bit further on it. Do you think, and I kind of already answered this, but do you think there's do you think there is life out there?
In the as a Christian, I believe our planet is unique as well, and I believe that everything that we have is but everything's been created for us, is what we've been told. It's God's creation, um, and from that, looking through that lens, I would have to say, well, absolutely not. It wouldn't make sense, right? But if you and then you step aside and you take your scientific mind like observation, and like you said earlier, we have what we call the elements of life that are on Mars, and or you talk about even like certain bacteria. Even here, we have extremophiles that live on our planet, and that gives us the assertion that possibly life could live in an extreme environment on another planet or a moon or some other celestial body, and that in the science realm, that is quite plausible. I mean, really, if you think that life is not unique to the Earth, then that is very plausible. Um, so, but for me personally, I just, I would have to say no. I mean, I don't. It's hard for me to believe that. But if I think of it as scientifically minded, I would say, well, yeah, it's absolutely plausible because the all you need is the elements of life, but you have to have that spark that initiates life, and that's the thing that's missing for even from my faith, from the scientific talk, is something had to start life. Life doesn't come from nothing, so something had to make it move. Something had to. There's some type of energy had to make that happen.
Well, and that's what throws me off is people talk about that they have found all these other the potential for all these other planets to have those ingredients for life, but it's always past tense. I mean, they haven't found a planet, at least that they can verify, that currently has it. Why is that? How does that work? That all these planets at one time could have sustained life, but coincidentally, none of them did, or none of them do now. And of course, once again, we're talking about the other part of that is everything we're seeing are images that are supposedly, you know, took 2 million years or whatever to get here. So who knows what it looks like now? If you believe that, um, you know, that might be another conversation for another day about the speed of light, and does it really take that long for images to get, or for us to see an image, things like that I've got probably a little bit different view on, because you're more scientific and I'm more, I guess in that realm I'm more conspiracy theory, but that'll be another conversation. But when everything I learn, and this is scientific, everything I see, the 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 more and more we learn about the origins of life, about the incredible odds for a planet even being in a system and in a location where life could ever even be plausible, then the odds of, number one, nobody even knows where, if you're not a believer, nobody even knows where that spark of life came from. Then the incredible odds of, how did this incredible code of DNA that's in every single cell magically get written over millions and millions of years? I don't think it's I don't think that it's more plausible to think that just because there are 100 billion planets, that there's a good likelihood that life could have grown, because you look at how incredible the odds were that we're sitting here talking. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's that's the life that most scientists are out there trying to find right now. From my understanding, when we are looking for those extremophiles because they would have to be in a primitive state. I don't believe that we would imagine them actually being totally eukaryotes, sentient beings that are actually moving around and have locomotion, around their environment. It would be very, very odd to imagine that anywhere else, because all we know is here. Even they try to take, I guess in some movies, even they want to talk about, if we take plants from Earth and we move them to other planets, that we could grow them there and sustain life, and maybe grow lamps or whatever the case may be. But honestly, I've always felt that the plants and the organisms that live on this planet, um, are meant to be on this planet, and they're not meant to be moved somewhere else. I mean, maybe through a lot of genetic mutation we could get plants that could do stuff like that, but any type of time we talk about other life, it's never usually a large eukaryote organism. It's uh, just single cell organisms. That's all it really ever is. And um, that's the type of life I'm thinking of. I couldn't even imagine a eukaryote. And I agree with you. We're in like the perfect place, in our solar system, the right distance from our sun, the right rotation. a satellite that causes wave motions. I mean, there's too many things that are just too sweet about our sweet spot, that there's even some of these very, very far away exoplanets that they've observed through spectrograms and things like that. That's how they observe things far away. Typically, they can see it. Uh, but yeah, it's pretty darn unique, and I just don't know if that they've observed a planet that could be what they say is in those habitable zones, but all the extra little things that make our planet unique and where it's at, I don't know if we could say, yeah, it's a very, very long shot to see another place like Earth anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and you said that, and then this is probably one that's more in your wheelhouse. That's why I wanted to ask you about it. Why is it? Why would you assume that if there was life, that it would probably be a simple life form? Where do you pull that from?
That would come from just being from our understanding of life, right? Obviously, our and we all we understand is what's here, and the only thing that we can understand is there's organisms that can live in extreme environments, and so we've obviously witnessed extreme environments in our own solar system. There's a belief that there are organisms that are actually there, and they would be single cell organisms, just like algae or certain bacteria are resistant to different things, and they can live at those extreme temperatures and in those extreme environments. Another great example of that is, if you think about it, Europa is another one that they've always talked about going to. It is but we just in the past 50 years figured out that life can exist on our planet without energy derived from the sun. We Thermonuclear vents is something fairly new to science, and there all the creatures that live around the thermonuclear vents at the bottom of the ocean live off of thermal energy, not solar energy. So that is a unique environment that we just found out in our ocean, which makes me come back to a side note. We should explore our oceans before we really go to start reaching far to like Mars. Maybe our moon is a good shot for now, but I really think our oceans, we don't understand our planet well enough to, or explored it well enough to say we understand this planet. I think we need to do a lot of more research and work. But yeah, I just think it would have to be single cells just because that's the only thing we could think of that could live in those extreme environments.
Yeah, I know, and I do think that's cool, and I completely agree. I don't understand why we don't invest more time and resources into studying our oceans more. When you look at the advancements that have come from that sort of research, and you think about some of those, I forget what they are. If it's a worm or whatever it is that can whatever that or it's like a little crustacean maybe. Hello. Okay. Sorry, guys. That can live, on top of those or on those vents. That the methane levels or whatever it is, whatever gas that is, are just before thought unsurvivable by any sort of life form. Things like that. Why aren't we studying that more? Why aren't we mapping the ocean? Why aren't we learning all? Because there's a what is it? Maybe what they say, 10% or less of the earth that's or the ocean that's actually been explored. It's a tiny fraction.
Yeah, I would have. It's changed. I've heard a lot. Of course, I studied oceanography, but that's one of those things that I've heard it move left and right. How much because we explore more and more now with satellite imagery, we were able to penetrate the water and map the ground. Map the topography, but actually get down there and see what's swimming around. That's a whole nother issue. I mean, our oceans are as alien to us. We can find lots of aliens all day long if we explore our oceans,
Yeah.
and well, honestly, there's no money in it. I mean, there's money in trying to go to Mars. Think of all the things you have to do to get just to get a rocket into orbit and then have propulsion system go to another, go to Mars, be on target, all the things that go into it, the outfits, the food, the sanitary things they would need. I mean, all these things they would just have to, figure out. But right here in our oceans, I mean, that's the place I think we should explore because I mean, I, I don't think anybody, with a I don't know. It just makes such logical sense to understand our planet
Yeah,
more, and we
it
should
does.
know it before we try to move to another one.
Yeah, that and I sit there and think about NASA's pretty much defunct now. They're not doing much anything, and I think that's why, because the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. At the end of the day, even if you're funded by the government, you know, you've got to you got to be profitable, and they've learned that it's not profitable to go into space, which makes me wonder what is Musk's big thing. I mean, he's already come further than NASA has, as far as being able to make a redeployable rocket and do all those things. I don't believe that space travel, like space tourism, can possibly be his motive. I just don't, because no matter how much you charge people, number one, it's going to be a very finite number of people that are going to be able to afford it. Number two, even with people paying $100,000 a pop, it's not going to pay for itself. It's definitely not going to be profitable. Is it rare? Is it rare minerals? Is that ultimately what he's going for? I wonder what his big thing is, what his motivation is with this whole space exploration thing, because he's all for it, and it can't be tourism. I just wonder what the end goal is for him, and I think it's great. I really hated that NASA kind of stopped with space travel, because I thought it was really cool. I thought it was amazing. It's and to see those images from the telescopes that they've sent up and everything from Hubble, and from that one that deep space one, the galaxies and everything that they've shown, and I mean, it's incredible. I don't know that, once again, there's no money in it, but it's really cool, and for our understanding of our universe, it's definitely a good thing. But I wonder, Musk he's all about making money. So I don't think he's in it for just for spreading knowledge to the masses. I wonder why he's really doing it.
There is some money in space exploration, not only just getting there and all the people that would, all the people you need to create all the technologies to do whatever it is you want to do in that extreme environment. But there's been conversations about people wanting to mine maybe comets or asteroids or any type of interstellar debris that comes flying by our planet. And, some of them they've suspected were just a huge gold nugget just floating around. So you could imagine, if we could figure out a technology to land on one and, chip off some gold or bring some unique ore back to the planet. I mean, that's a moneymaker right there, and not just in having people but NASA to move their stuff up into space and getting a paycheck for doing that. I mean, or maybe it's just he's got the kind of money and decides that he just wants to do it. I mean, you got money like that, I guess you could do it.
He's got that FU money, so why not?
Exactly. So I mean, I don't see why not. But one thing I was going to throw at you about our alien conversation was, what are your thoughts on the Roswell crash? It's kind of the thing that started it all. And I think, just for me, what I think is really unique is hearing that the Air Force pilots or the Air Force officer's son that came home with material and showed them. And I think the coolest thing I heard them say was they took that material, like a sheet, and was able to crumble it up just like foil. And then after a few moments, it just popped back into its shape without a wrinkle in it, just like it was never crushed before. This very, very pliable, but yet very hard, rigid material that held its form. It would go back into its original form, almost like a sponge does after you squeeze it. Just goes back.
Yeah, my thoughts on Roswell were always that and this was it was what, the height of, was it World War II?
Yeah, it was in the early 40s.
Yeah. So in that post World War One, and nobody thought the end of World War One was the end of world wars. Everybody knew the next one was coming. So everybody was already kind of ramping up for World War Two. And I'm sure the U.S. wasn't as directly involved, but I'm sure they were ready, or trying to get ready. I think Roswell, what I've always thought about Area 51 was that was where they were doing their top secret research on munitions and aircraft and whatever, getting ready for the next war, because we especially back then, well, leading up to the last 15 years or so, we love our wars. Um, I think that's all it was. I think that's where they were doing their experimental research, and they hid behind the alien thing so that they could, I, maybe it was just a huge deep fake, instead of people actually trying to find out what was really going on. They kind of they probably propagated the alien myth, um, so that people were looking in a different direction. That's all I think it was.
Yeah, I think the government's been doing that very well for a long time. There's even in the last 10 years with the you know from what's understood that most of Americans really don't listen to the media anymore because they kind of know that they're not really getting the story they should be getting, and I feel that that may have something to play into it. Is like kind of think for yourself mentality or look at this evidence. But yeah, I really believe that you're probably right. All the whole story they talked about a weather balloon, all the misinformation and not having their story straight, all just was more or less a smokescreen. And Area 51, I agree with you on that one too. I think it was just we were testing new aircraft because we were always trying to build a bigger, better bomber. I mean, that was always been the thing. We already had the best spy plane you could ever have, so we need to have a bomber that could be invisible to radar. And yeah, back then that shape of an aircraft would have been very, very weird to see. So yes, you could have thought it was alien technology. And oddly enough, most of our aircraft are actually in the shape of birds in flight because
Yeah.
by watching birds, we learn that hey, that shape does this shape does that, and that help us with our avionics.